folks, and welcome to the Anti-Heroes Podcast with your host, Zach Blair. I am Zach Blair. Hi there. How you doing? I have to slow down when I'm talking. I notice, and when I'm listening back to these, just how much I misspeak and mispronounce words. My dad was a radio DJ, like an announcer, and I noticed he used to do it a lot. But he was live. That was like the days of FM radio, and he would just mispronounce words and then kind of correct himself. And I find myself doing that. So sorry. I am from Texas though. And I have a Texas public school education that I didn't even graduate with. So, I mean, just the fact that I can form sentences in the first place is sort of a miracle. It's a marvel. So I appreciate you bearing with me. Anyway, I will try to slow down my speech. How have you been? How's everybody doing? I hope you're all good. Today, I met a new friend. I met the guy that plays guitar and sings for the band Ken Mode, which, if you don't know what that stands for, Kill Everyone Now Mode, which I think is hysterical, and that's a great name, and I wish I would have thought of it. Ken Mode are from Winnipeg, Canada. They've been around for 23 years. I did not know any of that, and they are just fucking rad. I kind of got introduced to them later in the game, but they're a combination of a lot of things that I like, and they do it their own way. Jesse and I have a lot in common. He is in a band with his brother. His brother's his drummer. And I always sort of envy people that get to play in bands with their musician sibling, because my brother is a sibling, of course he's a sibling, as a musician. And if you're a fan of the show, you know I interviewed my brother, and we talk about how we kind of always wanted to play together and stuff. That was sort of the goal in the first place. Life took us other places, but anyway, I do get to get acquainted with Jesse, and man, I liked him a lot. I think we had a great conversation. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let you hear my conversation with Jesse Matthewson. Hey, Jesse.
Hello.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going. Going.
So we've never met. We're meeting now, but this is not real life.
It is real life, but it's online.
It's on. Yeah. I mean, I think we've played similar festivals. Maybe. Does that sound right?
Maybe. We haven't played a lot of bigger ones. We're finally starting to get asked to do some now,
right?
After 24 years.
Have you been together 24 years? No shit. Wow.
Oh boy.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's then it's time, and it's just, your band is great, and it's a shame that people haven't put you on bigger festivals before now. But I guess I wish we had played the same festivals together, because I definitely would have come over and seen you guys play instead of most of this fucking claptrap that we play festivals with.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way it is, right?
Yeah.
We're at this point, we're just trying to take advantage of what we can.
Sure. And you guys are a dyed-in-the-wool, real touring band. You are doing one-nighters in a van, and you guys you're doing the real shit.
Oh yeah,
The Lord's work.
I have no idea how much money we'd have to make to graduate from a van, because
sure,
it's just, I mean, as a day job, my brother and I run a company that does the books and managing the business side of bands that actually make money. So we know how much all this stuff costs.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't think it's very worth it. So
yeah,
I don't know what it would take to graduate to a band box or a bus or any of that stuff, because it just seems crazy to us.
It is a ridiculous amount of money, and I definitely see it because of tourists. The end of the tour, accounting emails that come to me that I see what we've made and what we spent, and it's shocking. It is shocking.
Yeah.
But it's relative. It's as the band gets bigger, the show gets bigger, the venues get bigger. So you have to have a bigger show to go in there. You get a crew, and they are not going to fucking drive in a van and go sleep on floors. And it all,
Why not?
I know.
Why not?
You should fucking sleep on the floor and be proud of it.
Yeah.
But my heart. I mean, I did what you're doing or have done longer than I've done what I'm, bus shit. So I guess we all have, really. You just do it until you don't. And I know how fucking hard it is. It's funny. I went and met the band Military Gun the other night in Chicago, and we're label mates with those guys now. And they were in a van, and they were talking about how many hours they're going to have to get tonight before they pulled over, and they're doing the Tetris and the trailer and everything. And it just brought back so many. I felt like I felt guilty that I wasn't grabbing a guitar and putting it in the trailer with them. It's like my body just wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
I know we were just out with Baroness like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they have their one guy who's like the stage manager, and he's the one dude who packs the trailer, and he actually takes great pride in it. We kept like, can we help you? Like, we don't like watching one person from a crew doing all that work. And like, I don't know, we're one of those bands that just, we help everyone because it makes everything go faster.
Yeah,
So
totally.
we
Totally.
just like doing that, like whether it be helping every band on and off the stage, like this will make the show go smoother so I don't have to stress out. And like
Yeah.
at the end of the night, we'll help carry everything because like frankly I need the workout.
Yeah. Well, and I saw that you guys did like a 5 tour tips thing. I watched that video, and you're so right. It's so, any minute saved on this end means that you get to sleep more, you get more hours behind you toward the next gig, whatever it might be. It's all that sort of mathematics to like, I want to sleep. I want this to be easy. I want it to be as comfortable as it can be because it's already an uphill slog or slag in the first place. Like it's us against them, and it's rough. It is rough. And
Yeah.
I say that, and people, fucking blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, motherfucker, you go to the same office and sit behind a desk. We were out there, playing to no one. We had just driven 17 hours. We might not even get $100 tonight or whatever it might be. We don't know where we're sleeping,
And even when things are going right, I think that the big thing that people who don't know anything about sleep and sleep studies and sleep science, we are designed to not get proper restorative sleep when we're not in familiar spaces. Right. So when you are not in your home bed, you don't reach the levels of deep sleep that you need to restore yourself from the day that you had. So no matter what, no matter how cushy a tour can be or how cushy any kind of travel is, you are not as comfortable, nor are you restoring your body the way it needs to be. So that is inevitably why we all end up feeling kind of shitty every day on tour. And it's just strict science. That aside, like most people are obviously hugely sleep deprived in the actual hours you get. But even if you get 12 hours of sleep on tour, it's not deep restorative sleep. So you're still going to feel messed up. And that explains why we all still feel absolutely crazy when we're traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that makes so much sense. You always kind of feel a little sick, or maybe you're getting sick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like always. And that makes a whole lot of sense. So I don't know. I think what we do is, I think it's the best job in the world, but I also think it's one of the fucking hardest jobs in the world.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Fuck
and
people.
I mean, we're obviously at the size of band that like letting go of responsibilities isn't really a problem we have yet. So we're essentially like workaholics on the road. Like we're our own drivers, we're our own tour managers, our own accountants.
Yeah. You have to be.
Loaders, guitar techs, drum techs, like we're doing everything. And I very much struggle with what level does it need to change before you give up some of that control. And I think even if we were a much bigger band, I'd still probably struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a bit of a control freak.
Well, it is a struggle though, because this thing is most important to you, and it's not going to be as important to anyone else. And how could it be? Why would it be? No matter, yes, you're paying these people to do something, but at the end of the day, and they may love you and love the band and love the fight and love everything, but it's not going to be as important to them as it is to you. It's just that it's intrinsically not going to be that way. So,
I mean, I literally just packed this week's mail orders to get picked up today, and we drive to Denver tomorrow.
Wow. No shit. So starting a tour in Denver?
It's kind of stupid. We're playing Decibel Metal and Beer Fest. We're just driving down there, then driving back.
Oh,
why?
Shit.
Why? Because we're stupid.
No shows on the way there. No shows on the way back. Nothing.
No, no.
Oh man.
We actually we accepted it as a one-off before we had this fall's we've been out a fair amount, and we didn't have that Baroness run booked when we accepted Decibel Metal and Beer Fest, so we figured like,
Right.
what's a couple days to drive for a long weekend playing a festival and driving back? It'll be a nice road trip to break up things. And then
Right.
we filled something in the middle of a Euro tour in that fest, which also had a lot of driving and days off. So now we're just like, oh God, I don't want to spend like
Mm-hmm.
4 days in the van for one show.
Isn't that fun when the old you fucks over the new you, because the old you
Yeah.
doesn't know consequences. The old you doesn't think about where you are at this stage. You just, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
let's do it. And then the new you's like, fuck you.
This
You know.
sucks. I want to be at home. I want to sleep in my bed. I want to eat better.
Yeah.
I haven't lost the chub from the last run yet, so I need to
Yeah,
work
yeah,
that
yeah.
off.
Yeah. And
And
you can't work out. You can't, yeah.
no. And part of my problem is like we treat tour kind of like vacation eating, because like I don't know, at
Mm-hmm.
home you lock into routines, and like we eat pretty healthy, we exercise. So when I'm on tour, especially in the US, I want to eat like
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Well, and that's the
And we
problem with American diet. It's all fun stuff, and then you get that American body.
Yeah. And I need to burn off that my little American that I have right here.
That's a good way to put it, man. Everybody, Americans have the fucking Quado from,
Yeah,
Total
Quato.
Quado. Well, you guys are from Winnipeg, correct?
Yeah, Winnipeg, Canada.
Man, what a crazy, amazing music scene, and just what cool music has come out of that small little town in the middle of Canada. I mean, Neil Young to the Guess Who to Black Return Overdrive to Propaganda, you guys, it's all out of that one little town. And the only thing I can equate it to is kind of like why, I'm from Texas and born and raised in Texas. You're not by a coast, you get
No.
what you get. So you create stuff based on the stuff you've gleaned from if you were from a coast, you might be very specific to like the thing that's happening there. I think it's a credit and a service, but it also kind of puts a few steps ahead of you when it comes to breaking out,
Oh, big time. Yeah. I do and it's funny, you actually see the effect that the internet had on everything with an example like Winnipeg, because we're right in the middle of North America. We're very isolated. Like the closest US city is Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is about an 8-hour drive from us, and obviously
Yeah.
an international border. The closest Canadian city that has 1 million people or more is Calgary, and that's like a 15-hour drive. So
God
we're
damn.
not close to anything. And especially during like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, like you'd have to be pretty dedicated if you want to sweep through on tour through Western Canada, because there's like you come up to Winnipeg, and especially around that time we were probably 500,000 people, and there really wasn't any like people always complain that Saskatchewan kind of screwed up most international tours because their cities are like significantly smaller than ours, like maybe a
Right.
third the size of Winnipeg. So generally speaking, bands would either take a day off or play a less than great show in Saskatchewan. So
Yeah.
generally speaking, our scene had to entertain itself.
Yeah.
And at the time, like, especially as punk and hardcore and metal kind of started to open up throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like a lot of very creative bands were coming out of Winnipeg. And I think it was just because, like, we were all bored. I used to
Yeah.
always say people either play hockey, do drugs, or play music, or variations of all
Three
of those mixed together.
Yeah.
But we definitely had like a special scene up here that I think it's unfortunate that we didn't have better recording engineers at the time. And this is another thread that I've really leaned on, especially over the last album cycle, acknowledging that most scenes were only ever as strong as their best producer.
That's a great point.
All the scenes you remember always had a producer that was fucking sick, and he
Yeah.
made those bands sound like $1 million. And there were plenty of bands that were just as good in other cities, but if they didn't have the producer to back it up, no one would remember them. And we were one
Yeah.
of those cities that, unfortunately, like all the best records that came from bands that are notable from this city generally got recorded not in this city, which
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great bands that nobody knows about from here just because they didn't have good sounding records. So,
Well, yeah, because a song is a song, and a song could be really great. And I've heard many songs that are so good, recorded really terribly, and the song spoke for itself. But let's also face it: if something's recorded better, you do get immediately. It's instant gratification. You get the
yeah,
point of the song a lot better. When I was mentioning Winnipeg bands, I also forgot the Weaker Thans, and I should not have forgotten because I love the Weaker Thans.
Comeback Kid.
Oh yeah, those guys as well. But Weaker Thans, Jesus Christ, what a fucking great band, and John's such a great guy, and what a great writer. Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. I never really thought about that. I come from Dallas, like I said, and I don't think Dallas ever had a great definitive recording engineer or person. I know I'll probably offend some people right there, but there were good guys. There were good guys,
Yeah,
but there
yeah.
wasn't the guy. There
And it
wasn't,
everything is genre dependent too, like it and scene, like it all kind of comes together. Like
Mhm.
they might have a really good hip hop producer, and that's why that was put on the map. But like maybe the punk rock side was like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, so what started you playing? Let's go all the way back.
Started me playing. I mean, I played piano since I was 5 years old, so
Okay.
music has always been a part of the overall scope of my life. But in terms of playing guitar and wanting to be in a band, Nirvana started me wanting to play guitar, but it wasn't until I saw the band Kittens, who was actually a Winnipeg band, but I had no idea they were a Winnipeg band. Seeing them live for the first time made me want to be in a band.
Wow. Wow.
And they're unfortunately a band that never really did much in the US.
Okay.
They toured Canada a lot for maybe 3 years. Had actually arguably I think one of the best noise rock records of all time. They didn't
Wow.
record it in Winnipeg.
Right.
Bazooka and the Hustler, but yeah, it's still one of my favorite records ever.
I've never even heard of, I think I've heard of, but not heard at all. And I'm a dork about shit. So,
Yeah, they're one of those bands that, like, unless you're kind of tapped into really niche noise rock circles, you'd have no reason to have heard of them.
right.
But in Canada, they actually got quite a bit of coverage on Much Music, which was like our MTV
Oh, yeah.
equivalent.
I've done a
And
lot of shit there. Yeah.
that was just all that CanCon forcing Canadian content
Sure.
through, what is it, the CRTC, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Anyway, Canadians all knew who they were just because they desperately needed heavy Canadian bands to play. So, but
Right.
I still think that stuff holds up, which is unusual for Canadian bands.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
a lot of the
Yeah.
time, Canadian bands always, this is going to sound terrible, but a lot of Canadian bands sound like a shittier version of an American counterpart.
Well,
Unless they're like the shit and then they are that version
they
for
are,
America.
you know what? That's what I was going to say. You have Voivod, which no one fucking sounds like Voivod. And
Yeah.
also one of my favorite bands. You have No Means No, which Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, that is.
It's funny. Yeah. Canadians are either a shittier version of Americans or they are so on their own that the entire world has to say, well, that's a No Means No. That's a Gorguts. That's a Voivod.
Yeah. Good. Gorguts. Absolutely. That's a Voivod. That's there is nothing like those bands. There's just not.
Yeah. Or even with like deathcore, like that's Despised Icon. Like it's just, they're that band.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the relationship with Canada and the rest of the world.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, man. And I would put you guys in that category because, I can hear some influences, but you guys really sound like your band. No one really sounds like your band. You're definitely doing very original things.
We throw too many things in there to fit any one category, and
which is
for better or for worse. Yeah, for better or for worse, it's obviously we're a lot less popular than all the examples we were just giving there. But I mean, we refuse to go away, and it's funny that I think we're starting to catch on with people that like, oh yeah, if you like all this stuff, you might like them.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
seeing things online of people saying like, yeah, Ken Mode fans are like Ken Mode fans. You can't like pigeonhole that. And that
Right.
actually feels kind of good because it seems like people are actually starting to get us. Because like
Yeah.
I've been saying the same thing for over a decade. Like if you're into fast stuff, you're probably not going to like us because we have a couple songs you might like and then we get slow. It's kind of like
Yeah.
with the Melvins back in the 80s where it's like
Absolutely.
you think they're doing one thing and then they do another and then I'm over this.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And that's the truth. And I think it's an uphill battle because you know as well as I do, people are fucking they like very genre specific things. If you sounded like one band, you probably would have been more successful by now. You
Yeah.
know,
But
one of
then
the influences.
you also usually have that one record that people like and then they start to taper off.
Exactly. Exactly. And your band being a band that's had many influences and also created your own thing out of that, you can go anywhere. You can put out whatever fucking record you want, and that's the hallmark
Yeah.
of a truly great artist. I think that reinvents themselves, puts out different genre specific or genre bending records. Um, yeah, I think you have yourself one of those bands, which is awesome.
It is
I'm
very
envious of
freeing.
you. You know, creatively, I'm envious of you creatively.
Yeah, from
Uh,
an artistic standpoint, like I especially like with the last couple records I've been telling people I feel very fortunate that like as much as the media got more behind us like 10 years ago and had kind of treated us like poison ever since. But the records themselves, we're getting more fans for our newer stuff, and that's what they want to hear. So we don't really have to pay attention to a lot of our back catalog, which, artistically speaking, like I know bands don't like necessarily enjoy leaning
right.
on songs that are 15 years old. You want to do the stuff that feels fresh and vibrant as an artist. Otherwise, it just feels like karaoke. And I feel very fortunate that we aren't a karaoke band.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're definitely not that. And so your brother is in the band as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and did you guys start the band together?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We,
yeah,
well, essentially, I started playing with my friend Daryl, who was Ken Mode's first bassist, pre Ken Mode. And Shane came into the fold then. And we kind of cycled around like high school shit when people are flaky. And I
yeah.
started writing songs on my own. And then when we actually like landed on, okay, we're going to do Ken Mode, it was Shane, myself, and Daryl.
That's cool. Yeah, my brother and I, we our band from the '90s was called Hagfish, and we always wanted to play together. And we played in another band called Only Crime with Bill Stevenson, and the whole point was to always play together. But you know,
Yeah.
things life takes other turns. But I am envious that you get to play with your brother. I think
I
that's
mean, as
awesome.
long as you get along with your brother.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. We do. I mean, we have like a very different relationship, you know, than most brothers.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, man. And you know, there's that. Oh, what they call it, blood harmony. There's that thing about having a family member, man. That yes, it can also ruin a band. Like you know, some brothers, like the Oasis brothers or the Kinks brothers or whatever, that don't get along. But then there's that thing, man, when it's clicking and it's going well. You're not going to have that thing with anyone else. You know,
No,
you're just
no, yeah.
not. There's
Yeah,
just
it's
something,
funny.
you know.
It's funny how it works that way. It either like really, really works or really doesn't work.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thankfully, we fall into the category of it really working, where you have
It's
a partner that you can actually trust.
Yeah, dude. I mean, think about it. There's nothing that's going to make a hard time like in a van. It broke down. You're on the side of the road. This person that's there with you, you had Christmas with them when you were 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that is going to bond you like that with anyone else in the fucking world.
Oh,
You
dude,
know?
get this. Shane and I share a birthday, and
Oh
we're
my God.
2 years apart. Same birthday.
My brother and I are 19 months apart and definitely not the same. That is bananas. So you're like twins, but one of you stayed in for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit. Well,
And oddly,
that's even more
even
so.
even weirder, we had a bassist for a couple years, born in Florida. He also had the same birthday.
What?
We thought he was trolling us until I saw his passport.
Holy fuck. So just on tour, you just shared a birthday?
Yeah. And that
Holy
happened must have been 3 times that we were on tour for our birthday.
No,
Yeah.
that you're not gonna get that again. Jesus fucking
Nope.
Christ. When's your birthday?
October 24th.
Okay, if you were gonna say December 26th, which is my birthday, I was gonna fucking freak
Yeah.
out. So if
What?
yeah,
What?
if people hearing this want to send gifts, it's December 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, um, wow. Well, and that's commendable. I just think I always think when somebody's in a band with their sibling, I'm always envious. And, that was where I was going to. He's a professional bassist. He still, plays, and he was actually on the show. But, we just had to, gigs went other ways, Um, so I noticed we'll get a little techie and talk about gear for a minute. Are you playing a electrical guitar company guitar on that new video?
I am on the one new video. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got one couple years ago.
it's like the Dan Armstrong shape, right? I've got one as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I got it done in all aluminum though, which they at the time had never done.
of that
Which actually,
shape.
yeah, I don't think they've done it since either. Actually,
Is it heavy as fuck?
it's pretty heavy. I don't know if it's heavier. I got a Kurt Ballou built me a guitar like 12 years ago that might actually be heavier
Wow.
because
I
it's built at a, what is it? I always forget whether it's Wengi or Wenge. I think it's Wengi. The
okay.
wood, very very heavy wood. But
Wow.
that's I think still my heaviest guitar.
Wow. Shouts outs to Kurt. He was on the show and old buddy, and I love the guy. What a wizard that guy is.
He's a mad scientist
He's a mad scientist.
in the truest form.
Yeah, he knows his shit.
Oh yeah.
I have electrical guitar company guitar, also the Dan Armstrong, but mine is the lucite, the
Yeah.
clear, and then that aluminum neck, and it's like Excalibur or something. Like it goes for instant shoulder, arthritis. I mean, it's just the worst. I love the guitar. I'm not, I don't want to besmirch their good name, but god damn, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a weird relationship with that because they kind of screwed me around when it was getting made, and I didn't know anything about the bad side of their company when I ordered it because the only people I dealt with that have their stuff were like, I guess, artists that are favored, and then I
Uh-huh.
got the rotten end of it. So it was kind of a soured experience. I finally got the guitar after like 2.5 years of fighting constantly. So
Wow.
yeah, it was just it's a beast that fills me with cognitive dissonance because it plays beautifully, it sounds really cool, it looks amazing, but
Right, right.
yeah.
Oh wow, that sucks. I'm sorry. What do you use? Like, what's your go-to? What if you had your druthers, your favorite guitar? What's that?
I don't know if I could pick a favorite. Like my Gibson Black Beauty
Yeah.
custom Les Paul custom is still like it was always my dream guitar, but it's not my main touring guitar anymore. I've honestly switched to just using Telecasters on tour because
Yeah.
they are the most reliable and probably the sickest sounding, most reliable guitars, period.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. And they stay in tune. There's just something about that chunky, weird body, the way the bolt on neck, the neck, the length, the 24, all of that. There's something about it that just, maybe it's a 6 on one side headstock.
yeah,
They just stay in tune.
yeah, it's just such a solid guitar, and also just I really took to heart some advice that Buzz from the Melvins gave on gear as to why he made the choices he did for their tour rig. And I've been starting to notice it in other players where the pedals can be super generic, some of the guitars can be super generic, and it's all for the sake of if anything goes wrong, you can replace it or repair it immediately.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, obviously a Telecaster is a pretty ubiquitous guitar, and like their stock pickups sound amazing. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that's kind of drawn me to making that line in the sand where, like, it's my touring guitar. If something goes wrong, like, they're not expensive either. Like, if you get it
Yeah.
fucked up, like cash flow wise, like if you need to sink it in to buy a new guitar and get an airline to replace it, whatever, after the fact, like, it's not the end of the world. So
Right.
yeah, tellies are the shit. And I had the right combo of pedals that I can make those sound like a million tons of crushing distortion. So
That should be the name of this podcast.
million
A
tons of
million
crushing
tons of crushing
distortion.
distortion. Yeah, with Zach Blair.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to put that. And you're right with tellies. I mean, something breaks, you just fucking replace it. Everything is interchangeable. The
Yeah.
neck breaks, you put a new neck on it. It's not. I'm sharing. Telly's always been one of my favorite guitars, but I've never really used them in Rise Against on stage. And I think I'm going to change that. Of course, I need to use humbuckers and things like that just because of the nature of our band. But
Yeah.
I think all that shit's it's getting figured out right now since we're about to start a big world fucking whatever. Anyway, a world fucking whatever.
Yeah. I like
You,
that.
you know what I'm talking about. Just a
Yeah.
world fucking whatever.
Whatever.
So I always ask everybody this: do you have one that got away with all the touring you've done? Have you lost something, gotten something stolen, hawked something? Yeah,
No.
anything?
No.
Nothing.
I mean, I gave away my first Epiphone Les Paul to a school band program,
That's cool.
but I don't regret doing it because it would have just been collecting dust. And if it can be the tool that helps get kids into doing the thing,
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. It had a Melvin sticker on it. They probably peeled that off, but
Rad.
that's honestly the only guitar thing that I ever really let get away. I've been bizarrely loyal to my equipment and
Yeah.
actually only really started expanding on some of it within the last few years because I never had money to replace anything.
Yeah.
And we're never cool enough that people would just give me stuff. So I've always kind of hoarded everything I had.
Yeah. Well, that's a great one. I do this with everybody, and there has been one other person that like hadn't gotten anything stolen at all. And with all the touring you guys do, that's bananas.
We're kind of neurotic with that too, though.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
for
yeah.
every friend that gets robbed, we're adding a new layer of security and hypersensitivity.
Sure.
So
Well, they have the thing now with GPS. You can put a little GPS tracker in your trailer, so if it gets stolen, you know where the fuck it's going. Like that shit wasn't around the '90s or the early aughts or anything. It's what the fuck. Like now
absolutely.
they have
And
that after so many trailers got stolen.
I love it too. Our gear. Let this be a warning. Our gear is absolutely covered in trackers. So
Good.
don't fucking come at us.
Good. That's rad. What amps do you use, by the way?
Okay, so guitar-wise, I got Ben Verrillen to build me a custom amp like right before the pandemic hit, and he ended up throwing in the towel on building amps like
Wow.
right after that. So I got him to build me a custom, we call it the Deodon.
Okay.
It's basically like his rendition of a couple amp requests that I had. I wanted like if Ben had to filter like a Fender Twin type sound, that's one of the channels. And if
Okay.
Ben had to filter his own kind of Marshall JMP, that's the other sound. So that's kind of my main amp. And then I've been using Make 2, I think 2 or 3, the Orange Rocker Verb for like 12 years now. Right. And actually Kurt got me onto that when we tracked with him back in 2010. And it's always been such a workhorse.
Yeah.
And it sounds great. So those are my main 2 guitar amps. But the band itself actually owns the bass gear too that we bought off our original bassist, and we've been rocking a Marshall VBA 400 for like 23 years.
Oh, rad. What I really want, my buddy Jeff Matts in High on Fire has one, but he doesn't play it live, is the solid state, the late 80s solid state Jubilee Marshall bass head that Rob Wright used. So it's just like no means no in a box. You just plug it in. It's a Rob Wright sound. And I want one so bad. I fucking saw one for $1,000 one time. And I was just like this close and I didn't buy it. So dumb. You guys, I noticed in the video, you guys are doing double, like you're playing bass. Like, do you guys do that very often or just that?
We've done it on 3 songs.
That's so cool. It's such a cool idea.
But specifically, our song "Blessed" from our Success record, that has been kind of a mainstay in our live set because just the riff in that one, it's one of those ones that every time I pull out the bass, people go like, What?
Yeah.
So
That's
we
such a
can't
cool
get rid of
idea.
that song. Yeah.
That's such a
And
cool
now,
idea.
actually, since adding Catherine to the live mix, like adding synth and saxophone and noise to that song has
Yeah,
made it so much more punishing that, like, yeah, it's
rad.
a fun one.
Well, and by the way, congratulations on adding a sax. I think it's such a cool. That's such a cool thing to do. You know what I mean? It just like
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those perfect storms, the fact that she's both such a sick saxophone player, but like she also plays guitar, piano. Like she's a very talented multi instrumentalist, and the fact that she's willing to do this thing with us is
right.
it definitely opened up a whole new avenue for us in the live spectrum.
Yeah,
And I think it's been starting to pay dividends for us because like we're starting to get, as I said, invited to festivals
yeah,
and it's because like we've always put on a good live show, but with her in there with all that extra stuff, like we're so huge sounding now. Not
yeah.
to toot my own horn.
No, but I mean, toot away, you know, and it also it gives you guys a whole John Zorn fucking dimension, which is always okay. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, and it's funny. I've talked about this with the way different heavy bands incorporate saxophone, and a lot of the time, people I don't understand where their head goes because a lot of them go to kind of the more campy ways that people use saxophone, where it's almost like corny elevator music, like they use it in a melodic way. And like
Sure.
I don't know how, especially as people into metal, like how you don't immediately go to like John Zorn or the way Napalm Death utilized it.
Yes,
Like, because
exactly.
coming from like a jazz background, how do you not understand it as a weapon of mass destruction?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
is
you're
one of
right.
the most violent sounding instruments when used properly. Why wouldn't it work with
Yeah.
heavy music?
Yeah, well, what did you not listen to Ornette Coleman records, you
Yeah.
know?
And
Or
I fundamentally don't understand people who don't get that.
right.
But
Did you hear the I cannot remember the song. I'll find it and send it to you, but the way Asan, you know, from Emperor, Asan's like uh solo records, on one of his solo records he uses it and it's in like a black metal song and he's got it and
yeah.
you're right, it totally makes sense. It doesn't sound alarming or like, oh, that's the novel, or you know, it sounds well placed. It's like, why wouldn't a saxophone be in a black metal song,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? It makes sense. Well, congratulations on that. I think that's a fucking cool idea.
Yeah, it's been
And you're
fun.
right. To great reward. It sounds just so cool. So for people listening, you guys have a, when did your last record come out? It's called Void. It's fairly recent, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of a tricky one too that we've had to explain to people cuz we recorded two albums at the same time that are meant to be like one package,
Gotcha.
but we're not a big enough band or the type of band that we felt like a double LP of that much material made sense. So we separated them into two distinct statements that are meant to be as a whole.
Okay.
So now that we've put Void out, we're starting to change the messaging of the whole thing, that it's the Null/Void project, because we wrote it all through 2020 and 2021, recorded it all at the same time. So it's, when people talk about it being like a new record, for me it feels weird because it's been sitting
Right.
there since January 2022.
Yeah. It just sucks the way how long it takes for us as artists, creative people, how long some things take to come out. And you're like, dude, I'm already over this show. We're already writing new shit, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
my problem is we've just been so busy, like, because music isn't our full-time job. So like for me to have to work an album cycle, it takes away from any time I have for being creative. So like I haven't written a song since 2021 and it is killing me.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, good luck, man.
Yeah. I very badly need to get back into it after this show this weekend. I need to get my life together in December and start writing again because
Well, good luck in
this sucks.
good luck in Colorado. This is going to come out way after. So if anybody's in Denver, Colorado, and see Ken Mode, or you saw Ken Mode,
Yeah, I hope you liked it.
yeah, I bet you they did. I bet you they did. Well, I'll let you go, buddy. It was so good talking to you, meeting you. Hopefully, I'll meet you in person very soon.
Yeah, man, here's hoping. I mean, we're both always out there, right?
Always circling.
I'll find you. I'll
Always
find you.
circling.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for being on, Jesse. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, have a good one, man.
There it is. I think we hit it off, man. Don't you? I love that. And I say it every time, I love meeting new people here because then I got somebody to meet out in the wild, IRL, if you will. You know, like, hey, we talked, we had a conversation, we commiserated, you know, we have met. It's also weird when you see somebody in real life that you didn't, that you met and you talked to for an hour or whatever it may be, and you talked about some deep shit and music, and you had this kind of intimacy a bit, and you never really were in the same room with them. Modern miracles of science. Anyway, I am going to leave you with some of Jesse's amazing guitar playing. This is going to be his band Kin Mode off their new record Void. And if you don't have it or heard it or whatever, go check it out and get into Kin Mode because it's awesome. It's such good stuff. And I meant it, man. I mean, that small town in Winnipeg, Canada, man. It's a small town in Canada, Winnipeg. See, I keep misspeaking. Has spawned just so much great music. Just out of that weird little town. It's crazy. I mean, it's a great town, but I think all little towns are weird in their own way. Anyway, this song is called Painless, and Jesse sort of plays back and forth with a saxophone, which he made the point, like, why isn't there more saxophone in like heavy music? There should be. I think when you think about saxophone and rock music, you just think of like boogie woogie rock and roll saxophone, something that would accompany like George Thorogood or something. But, like we said, you got to think about it in like John Zorn terms. Anyway, I'll go off on a whole thing. You know how I do. You know how I do. I get all crazy. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. And I'm going to thank our sponsors over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals for doing everything they do. Find out what they're doing at jimdunlop.com. Also, the folks at DistroKid. The DistroKid have figured out the way to give it all to the artist, man. 100% of your royalties. And they give you the platform, they give you the means to get your stuff on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else you need it as an independent artist that might want to self-release, because in this day and age, artists like myself, like you, hopefully, you have the power, man. You have the power. You can put it out yourself. People at DistroKid are going to teach you how, and they're going to show you how, and they're going to give you the means. So they are doing the good work. They're fighting the good fight. So check out what they're doing, DistroKid. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. And we will talk to you soon.